Okay. Uh, White privilege. That's another thing that is basically bullshit. So, because I'm white, I have white privilege, right? White privilege. Born and raised in Detroit. We were known as white trash. When I wanted a car, I had to buy it. My parents didn't give me money for it. Uh, the rule was, you want a car, you pay for it. You pay for the insurance. You pay for the gas. You pay for the plates. And it wasn't like, okay, well, I'll get insurance and let it cancel. No. They would verify that you kept your insurance up, which to me was totally legit. So, white trash, grew up poor, had to buy my first car, which was a 67 Firebird. Still have it. It's out there on the trailer, needs to be restored, and I was hoping me and Michael could do that, but unfortunately that changed. Yeah. Anyway, I was hoping me and Michael could restore it. Then, the high school I went to was a very violent high school because they were busing people in from the ghetto. So there were fights all the time, stabbings. Education level was poor except for the science and the electronics, drafting, stuff like that, because they didn't lower the teaching standards. I worked for a living for, I wash dishes. I had to pay for insurance. I had to pay for gas. Granted, I didn't really go anywhere. But we still, but anyways, I still had to pay for everything. So I was working for a living. Then I joined the military, Air Force. My first good telescope, C8 Celestron. I had one before that, refractor, from Kmart, focal. I worked to buy that telescope. I worked to buy my car. I worked to pay for the plates. I worked to pay for no-fault insurance. Joined the military. Got out of the military. Worked for a living. Wasn't handed to me. Then worked at Ford, doing the Ford experimental engine stuff. Did that. Got laid off. And this isn't me patting myself on the back or any bullshit like that. Everybody in the shop, except for one guy, said that I was the best mechanic there. You got to remember, this stuff was all experimental. Okay? So, basically, the stuff would come to you, and the engineers would say, okay, here's everything you need, put it together, and get it to run. Okay, so that is the essence of experimental engine. You get parts that are made by hand, parts that are $150,000 for one part. You break it, yeah, So anyway, I worked there. Layoff time came. I told everybody who was going to get shit canned and who was going to stay hired. All of them said, well, they're not going to get rid of you. I'm like, yeah, they are. I says, because Charlie, or whatever his name was, the head Ford rep, I says, doesn't like me. And they're like, what do you mean he doesn't like you? And I'm like, yeah. He comes in, I see him, I say, how you doing, Charlie? And he goes, eh. That was the extent of it. So I never did nothing to him, but he just didn't like me. So anyway, when the axe came down, I was out. So from that point forward, I'm like, well, I'm never going to work for anybody again. You can't trust him. So I bought a semi. Did white privilege get me that semi? No. I saved up enough money, borrowed a little bit, to get the semi. Then, when I decided to settle down, have a family, got rid of the semi, quit driving for that company. And when I got the semi, I was younger, didn't know all the ins and outs yet. Nobody there to tell me, so I kind of got screwed, more or less. But anyway, it has nothing to do with this. So anyway, I'm the one who bought the truck. I'm the one who was out there busting my ass paying that payment, which was yeah, big payment. Then when I started my own business, started a remodeling basically, did that. I didn't get any kind of loans. I took a chance and said, well, this is what I'm going to do. See what happens. So it wasn't handed to me. I ended up getting into heating and cooling. Had my own shingle, hanging out at the street. Meaning you have a commercial location with your sign. It's an old term my dad used to use. He said, he would say, yep. He says, you get your shingle out there. Was that handed to me? No. I didn't go to a bank and get a loan and say, well, I'm trying to get a place of my own for my heating and cooling company. White privilege didn't give that to me. I did. I went out there, got contracts with home warranty companies, did advertising, and I made the company work. When I built this house, I got started on it a lot years later than what I should have, but I got tired of putzing around, getting talked out of buying property, so I had saved up enough money on my own, saved up enough money to buy the property, saved up quite a bit, kept it aside as cash so somebody else wouldn't spend it, saved up the money, finally said, you know what, I was looking for property, I bought the property, I went home and I says, hey, I bought property and I'm building my Victorian home. Yeah, I started building it 15 years later than I should have, but I could allow somebody to talk me out of buying property. But white privilege didn't buy this property. I bought this property. Has nothing to do with white privilege. And myself and Michael built this house. Yeah, we built this house from the ground up. Every stick of lumber was handled by me or Michael. For part of it, I did hire a couple of guys to help out, how all you friends are. Oh, when you're ready to stand up walls, give us a call, we'll come out there and help you. Well, I went over to the pole barn. I said, hey, Larry and all the other guys, I said, I'm ready to stand some walls. I said, need some help standing some walls. Oh, we're all busy. And then two of the other guys said, oh, well, we'll help you, but you got to pay us. All the shit I did for you guys, all the heating and cooling stuff I did for you, didn't charge you, I gave you a ridiculously good price. But anyway, white privilege had nothing to do with building this house. So these assholes, whatever you want to call them, you know what I say about assholes? It's like opinions. Everybody has one. But anyway, white privilege did not get me my first car. White privilege did not get me my first job washing dishes. White privilege did not get me into the Air Force. White privilege did not give me money to buy my first telescope, and it was a lot of money. White privilege did not help me start a remodeling company. Did not help me graduate from, not graduate, but however you'd say it, from the remodeling to heating and cooling. I did that. Did I go to school for heating and cooling? No, I didn't. I started out remodeling because I knew how to do that, because as a kid, I had to work with my dad during the summertime, making $1 a day, hanging siding. $1 a day. And yeah, we were gone, and we'd leave the house like at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, We wouldn't get home until 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes, most of the time. So I worked my ass off. White privilege didn't do that. So anyway, when it come time to buy the property, white privilege had nothing to do with that. When I went to the bank to get the construction loan, that had nothing to do. I didn't walk in there and say, I'm a white guy. Give me a loan for the house so I can build a construction loan. That had nothing to do with white privilege. They said, how you going to pay us? It had nothing to do with white privilege. It's like, well, I own my own company. I have had an account here for however many years. I really don't remember how many years. And I want to get a construction loan to build a house. Okay, you qualify for that loan. They didn't look at the loan paper and say, well, this guy's a white guy, so we're just going to give him a loan. That had nothing to do with it. So this whole white privilege crap, to me, that points more at the rich that had everything handed to them. Okay? Or these kids that don't pay for their school, that are all these different movements, trash and everything. They're the ones that, they're against white privilege. You guys are the one that think you're privileged. Because you know what? The left trashes, they riot. You had Elizabeth Warren. Go out there. If you see one of President Trump, she didn't say President Trump, but in essence that's what she was saying. You see one of his cabinet, get in their face, create a ruckus, run them out of a restaurant. You see them at a filling station, create a crowd, harass them. Several of the people on the left, senators and congressmen, were saying, go out and harass Republicans or cabinet members of President Trump. What the hell is that? Now the president is up for impeachment, even though he is now out of office, and you can't impeach somebody who is out of office, and they're going to try to impeach him anyway? Looney Tunes, you know, the party of the left. Maybe that's what the L stands for, Looney Tunes. But anyway, white privilege is just, to me, is such bullshit. You know, that's an insult to all the white people out there that busted their ass to get what they have. Now, if they're, you know, an ass kisser, like my brother, Richard, he was just an ass kisser. So he really didn't work, to me, he didn't really work for everything that he has. You know, he kissed ass. Does that make him white privilege? No. It makes him an ass kisser. He didn't earn anything that he got. At first he did, but then he married into a family that, you know, had connections with Lee Iacocca, who was the head of Ford at the time. And from that point on, once he married his wife, the job at Ford was handed to him. And but anyway, that just made him an ass kisser. I didn't make him white privilege. So anyway, I'm just pointing out the fact that, you know, we grew up poor in Detroit. My Firebird, because I was white, that didn't get me that Firebird. Didn't get me my first job. Didn't get me in the Air Force. Didn't get me my semi. Didn't get me my remodeling company that graduated, that ended up being a heating and cooling company. I didn't go to school for heating and cooling because I couldn't afford it. I had no intentions of getting into heating and cooling. It just so happened to be that with my remodeling company, I had customers say, hey, do you do heating and cooling too? And I'm like, well, no. I says, but I could take a look. And I learned it on my own. White privilege had nothing to do with that. I used my brain. And I figured out how to do things. And then I took the licensing, so I got all my licenses for heating and cooling. And that wasn't handed to me. White privilege had nothing to do with that. White privilege had nothing to do with me building this buying this property. White privilege had nothing to do with me getting a loan, construction loan to build a house. White privilege didn't allow me to buy this great LS XR 3135 tractor. Put a little plug in, right? But that's in some other videos I have that. That had nothing to do with white privilege. They looked at when I went to put a huge chunk down. But when they they look at your credit report. Do you have good credit? Yes. Give them a loan. That's not white privilege because I have good credit. Who made the good credit? This guy. Had nothing to do with me being white. There's black people, Hispanic people that have really good credit. When I bought my Mercedes-Benz, when I went in there, we walked past the showroom window. And all the salesmen were standing there BSing with each other. They seen that we walked by, and I was looking at the Benz. Then I walked back past, across the window, showroom window. Nothing. Because I was in jeans and a t-shirt. Had my veteran's hat on, of course. That's how I was dressed. So automatically, this guy can't afford a Benz. So if white privilege existed for me, those guys immediately would have came out and said, hey, this white guy here, yeah, white privilege, he's going to buy a Benz. So I went into the showroom, and very loudly, which I like drawing attention when I need to, and I says, what the hell does it take to get a salesman around here? But they are not salesmen. They are, oh God, I can never remember the name, but they're not car salesmen. Anyway, I can never remember the name, but they're, hopefully I'll remember. But anyway, white privilege had nothing to do with that. When I made it in there and I got loud, it made a little bit of a disturbance where everybody in the showroom heard me. An older guy comes walking over. And he says, may I help you? And I says, yeah. I says, because I walked past, that front window, past all them guys talking and BSing, and I says, and they all ignored me. I said, when I walked past and came past again, I said, this is because I'm dressed in a t-shirt. I says, in jeans. I says, automatically, I can't afford to buy a car. And he says, no, And then I said it loud enough to where the sales manager came off, and needless to say, people got their ass chewed out. And I ended up buying S550. But that's not the point. The point is, white privilege did not allow me to buy that car. Everything that I have, I worked my ass off to get it. And you know what? I hopped in this tractor, plowed the snow tonight. It was awesome. I felt pretty damn good. And if that would have been handed to me, I wouldn't give a shit. It's like my brother Richard. Everything was handed to him, so he never took pride in what he had. Everything I have had nothing to do with white privilege. I worked my ass off to buy everything that I have. White privilege? No. That is such a bullshit concept. If you want to call the rich people that have had everything handed to them that never have to really work, even that's not white privilege. That's just mommy and daddy handed them everything. They have money, so they don't have to worry about anything. Guys like me, work my ass off. Everything I have, and if you take care of what you have, what you buy, what you work your ass off, I always looked at and I raised Michael the same way. I said, when you go to buy something, look at how many hours do I have to work to get that item? How many furnaces, how many AC units do I have to install? How many service calls do I have to do? Look at, and that's why I buy stuff on sale. And I used to always Jew salesmen down on prices. I had to. Just the way I am. And they enjoyed it. But anyway, the point is white privilege has absolutely nothing to do with what I have. I did that. I busted my ass for everything that I have. And here, simply because I'm white, it's white privilege. Where do the left get off saying that all whites have white privilege. I would challenge anybody that watches this video, put comments below on how you think white privilege got you what you have today. That's all. I want to know. How did white privilege help me along in life? I know of black people that have a lot. They worked their ass off for it. It wasn't handed to them because they were black. It wasn't handed to them for any other reason, but they worked their ass off to get it. So that would be like saying, oh, well, because you have that big, nice house, that's black privilege. Yeah, they do get a lot of breaks because of different government BS, hiring, and what have you. It should be, if you can do the job, you're hired for the job. Businesses should not have to say, well, you have to have this many minorities working for you. Okay, well, tell you what. In this neighborhood and in this company, I'm Polish. So that makes me a minority. There's no other Polish employees in this company. I don't get special treatment. So I think any job should be, can you do the job? Yes or no. That's why you get hired. I know there is racism out there. Absolutely, there's prejudice out there. That will never, ever, ever go away. But anyway, I just want to bash this whole white privilege crap. That is such bullshit. That's an insult to me and everybody else that's out there watching this video that busted their ass to get what they have. And the thing with busting your ass and not having anything handed to you, you appreciate that. I appreciate everything that I have. The tractor, my cars, my Firebird, my house, my stereo system, my home theater. I busted my ass for all that. The house is almost 3,000 square foot house. Oh, wow, that's a big house. You know, he must have had that. No, I've been paying on it for like, years. I'm still paying on it. But I'll have it paid off in 7 years, I think it is. But anyway, white privilege had absolutely nothing to do with what I have. I went out, I busted my ass for everything that I have. I take care of everything that I have. Because you know what? I work for it. My tools. I have a couple of tools back from when I was a kid that I got off my dad. I still have some of those tools, believe it or not. I have tools from Montgomery Ward's. Lifetime warranty, they're out of business. J.C. Penney, lifetime warranty, they don't have tools anymore. Craftsman, when it was made in the USA. Craftsman sold out to Stanley. You can't buy it. Craftsman is available everywhere, and guess what? It's made in frickin' China, just like all their other stuff. But anyway, white privilege had absolutely nothing to do with what I have. And it's an insult when people say, you're white, so automatically white privilege. Bullshit.